After my father passed away, the inheritance was divided. My sister received the luxury apartments, and me, I was given an old damaged motel on the highway. People laughed when they heard it. What hurt the most was what happened at home. My own husband looked at me and called me useless. Then he threw me out of the house with my 2 sons. That same night, the 3 of us slept inside that empty motel, and what I discovered there made my whole body tremble. But before I reveal that secret, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now let's begin. My name is Emma. I am 34 years old, and I'm the mother of 2 boys. Weeks after my father's death, our family gathered to hear the reading of his will. The room felt serious and quiet. The air was cold and tense. My sister Olivia was sitting straight in her chair, looking confident as always. Her husband held her hand tightly, as if they already knew they were about to win something big. My husband sat beside me, but he didn't look at me even once. The lawyer opened the file and started reading. The downtown apartment complex will go to Olivia. Right away, my sister smiled. Her husband squeezed her hand proudly. Both of them looked very pleased. Then the lawyer continued. The Sunset Highway Motel will go to Emma. For a moment, the entire room became silent. It felt like time stopped, and someone quietly cleared their throat. My sister tried to hide her smile, but my husband didn't even bother trying. During the drive home, he didn't say a single word, not even one. That night, Olivia and her husband came to our house for dinner. It was supposed to be a family meal, but it didn't feel like family at all. It felt more like a celebration, just not my celebration. Halfway through dinner, my husband lifted his glass. Looking directly at my sister, he said, "Well, at least one daughter received the real assets." Olivia let out a soft laugh. Her husband chuckled along with her. Even my aunt gave an awkward smile. Everyone laughed. I forced a small smile on my face. I kept telling myself it didn't matter. But deep down, it really did. Everyone left. 3. House suddenly became very quiet. Too quiet. My 2 sons were upstairs sleeping in their room. I was standing in the kitchen clearing the plates when Daniel finally spoke. "A motel," he said. I stayed silent. Then he said it again. "A broken highway motel." I answered softly. "It's still property." He turned and looked directly at me. "Your sister builds wealth," he said, "and you inherit garbage." His words hit me harder than I expected. I felt small and completely worthless. Then he said the sentence that changed everything. "You're useless." The room filled with silence. After that, he looked toward the stairs, where our boys were sleeping. And then he said something I will never forget. "Take them, and go live in that motel." I stared at him in shock. I waited for him to calm down. I waited for him to take his words back, but he didn't. He didn't. "Yes, you heard me," he said coldly. "If that's the place your father left for you, then go and live there." My hands were shaking badly, but I refused to cry. Not in front of him. I quietly walked upstairs, packed clothes for my sons, and left the house. The motel was about 40 minutes away from the city. The highway was dark and almost empty. My daughter had already fallen asleep in the car. My son kept looking at me and asking, "Mom, are we moving?" I forced a calm voice and said, "No, sweetheart, just for a little while." When we finally reached the motel, the sign outside was blinking strangely. Half of the letters were not even lighting up. The parking lot looked deserted. No cars, no guests, no movement anywhere. When I pushed open the office door, it creaked loudly. The first thing that hit me was the smell. Old wood, dust, and the heavy scent of air that had been trapped for months. I checked a few rooms and finally found one that looked a little cleaner than the rest. Wiped the beds with tissues and spread our jackets on top of the sheets. My kids were so tired they didn't complain at all. Within minutes, they were fast asleep. I stood there for a long time, quietly watching them. This was not the life I had imagined. Not after years of marriage. Not after helping my husband build his business. Not after managing everything inside our home. Around midnight, I slowly walked back to the front office. The electricity was still working. A small lamp was glowing behind the counter. I sat down in my father's old chair. On the desk were old guest books, dusty folders, and a broken clock hanging on the wall. Opened one drawer, empty. I pulled open another. Just old receipts. Honestly, I don't even know why I kept searching. Maybe I was angry. Maybe I was trying to understand why my father had given me this place. Then suddenly, something strange caught my attention. Behind the front desk, near the wall, there was a small wooden cabinet. It looked different from everything else, newer, cleaner, and it had far less dust on it. That didn't make sense. No one had been here for months. I slowly stepped closer. The cabinet door was locked, but right beside it, hanging on a small nail, was the key. I froze. Why would my father leave the key right there in plain sight? My hand suddenly felt cold. The motel was completely silent. Even the sound of the highway outside felt far away. I picked up the key. For a moment, I wasn't sure if I was ready to see what was inside. My hand was trembling, not because I was afraid of the cabinet, but because I was afraid of finding nothing. If it was empty, then the motel truly was just a useless, abandoned place. And maybe my husband had been right all along. Slowly, very slowly, I pushed the key into the lock. It turned easily. I pulled the drawer open and paused. It slid out too easily, almost like someone had used it not very long ago. Slowly, I opened the cabinet door. There was no money inside, no gold, no shocking treasure waiting for me. Instead, I saw stacks of files, thick envelopes, a rolled-up map, and a small metal box. A strange feeling of curiosity crept in. I picked up the map first. It was a land survey. The entire motel property was outlined with red ink. But something else caught my eye immediately. Across the backside of the land, a blue line had been drawn. I stared at it for a moment. I didn't understand what it meant. Next, I opened one of the envelopes. Inside were letters. Most of them were sent by the city office. Some came from private companies, but one name kept appearing again, and again, and again. I had never heard that name before, but one detail made my chest tighten. These letters were recent. Very recent. One of them was dated just 3 months ago. By that time, my father was already very sick, so why was he still receiving letters about the motel? I kept reading. The words were simple, but something about them made my heartbeat rise. Proposed highway extension. Future commercial zoning. Redevelopment notice. My heart started pounding faster. I quickly opened another envelope. This one contained an offer letter, and when I saw the amount, I froze. It wasn't a small offer. It was more money than the motel could ever earn in 0 years. Slowly, I sat down in the chair. Then the truth began to reveal itself. The motel wasn't valuable because of its rooms. It was valuable because of the land. The back part of the property was sitting directly in the path of a new highway project. The city planned to expand the road. And when that happened, this quiet, almost forgotten motel would suddenly sit at the center of a major highway exit. That meant traffic, businesses, hotels, gas stations. Everything would grow around this one location. The letters showed that developers had already contacted my father. They wanted to buy the land, but every single letter ended the same way. Offer declined. He never sold it. But why? That question kept echoing in my head. I searched deeper. At the very bottom of the cabinet, I found the small metal box again. It was locked too, but the key was already inside the first envelope. Almost like my father wanted me to open it, my fingers felt weak as I unlocked it. Inside the box, there was only one thing, a handwritten note from my father. My hands trembled slightly as I unfolded the paper. It began with one line. "Emma, if you are reading this, then I am gone." For a moment, I stopped breathing, then I continued reading. "I know what people will think when they see the will. Let them think it. Let them believe whatever they want. I didn't give you the motel because it is small. Gave it to you because it..." And right there, I realized something chilling. The real reason behind my father's decision was still about to be revealed. My eyes filled with tears. The city will approve the highway project within the year, and when that happens, this land will become more valuable than anything your sister received. I covered my mouth in shock. He knew. He had planned all of this. The letter continued. "You have always been patient. You read and understand before you act. That is why this belongs to you. I sat there for a long time, completely still. The motel wasn't dying, it was simply waiting, and my sister had no idea. My husband didn't know either. No one knew. The letter also revealed one more thing. There was a final meeting request from a development company. They wanted to talk again. The meeting date was next month, which meant they were still interested. Suddenly, the humiliation I felt at dinner didn't feel the same anymore. The word useless suddenly seemed much smaller. My husband had laughed at this place. He told me to live here, and now I was sitting on something he never even imagined. Carefully folded the letters and placed them back inside the cabinet. Then I locked it. Not because I was afraid, but because I wasn't ready to tell anyone yet. Not now. The next morning, my phone rang. It was my sister. Her voice sounded light and cheerful. "We're refinancing one of the buildings," she said. "The investors are very excited." I could clearly hear the confidence in her tone. Then she asked, "So, how's the motel?" I looked around the dusty office. "It's quiet," I replied. She laughed softly. "Well, at least it's peaceful." After the call ended, I stepped outside. Even this early in the morning, the highway was already busy. Cars rushed past one after another. No one noticed the small sign that said Sunset Motel. But soon they would. I looked toward the back of the property. Behind the last row of rooms was a stretch of open land. That was exactly where the blue line on the map ran. That was the place where everything would change. And for the first time since my husband shut the door behind me, I didn't feel abandoned anymore. I felt chosen, but I still needed proof. Because letters are one thing, reality is something else. And if the highway project had not been approved yet, then all of this was still just paper. I took out my phone and searched for the number of the city planning office. If my father was right, then this motel was never meant to be my punishment. It was meant to be my future. The city planning office answered on the third ring. I quietly stepped outside while my children were still asleep. The morning. Air felt cool and calm. "Planning department," a woman answered. I gave her the motel address. There was a brief silence. Then the sound of typing. "Yes," she finally replied. "The highway extension project was approved last month." Approved. The moment I heard that word, my heart began pounding hard. "When will construction start?" I quickly asked. "Preliminary work begins in 4 months," she explained, "and that entire area will be rezoned for commercial use." Commercial use, that meant hotels, restaurants, gas stations, serious money. Trying to keep my voice steady, I asked carefully, "Has anyone contacted the property owner recently?" "Yes," she said. "Several development groups have already submitted requests showing interest in that property." I thanked her and ended the call. This wasn't just something written on paper anymore. It was real. Later that afternoon, I dialed the number from the most recent offer letter. A man answered. "This is Daniel from Horizon Developments." "My name is Emma," I said. "I'm calling about the Sunset Highway Motel." For a moment, there was complete silence on the line. Then he spoke. "Emma, we tried contacting the previous owner. He passed away," I told him. Another pause followed. "Well," he said slowly, "we're still very interested in that property." We arranged a meeting for Friday. Days later, on Thursday evening, my phone rang. It was my husband. I hadn't spoken to him since that night. His voice sounded calmer this time. "Have you finally come to your senses?" he asked. "I'm fine," I replied. "Emma, you don't have an income," he continued. "You can't stay there forever." I looked outside the window. My kids were playing near the empty parking lot. "I won't need to stay there forever," I said quietly. He sighed. "Your sister is closing a huge investment deal this week. You should see what real success looks like." "Maybe I will," I answered softly. Friday morning, Daniel arrived with 2 other people. They didn't laugh. At the motel, they didn't show disgust either. Instead, they looked very interested. We walked around the property together. Daniel measured the land behind the motel, took several photos, and asked questions about the access roads. After that, we sat down in the office. "Emma," he said while folding his hands. "Once the highway exit is completed, this place will become prime commercial land." "I know," I replied calmly. He gave a small smile. We're ready to present an offer today." He slid a folder across the desk toward me. I opened it. The number written inside made my chest tighten instantly. It was more money than my husband had earned in his entire life, even more than my sister's yearly rental income. And the most shocking part, this was only the first offer. "I'll need 48 hours, I said. "Of course," Daniel replied. They left the office a few minutes later. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was a message in the family group chat. My sister had sent a photo. She was sitting at a restaurant with investors, and in that picture, my husband was sitting there too. The caption read, "Celebrating real assets." I stared at the words for a few seconds. Something about it made me pause. Then I picked up my phone and typed a single message. "Let's have dinner Sunday, my treat." Sunday night arrived. Same restaurant, same table. My sister sat there looking completely confident, almost proud. My husband, on the other hand, barely glanced at me. My sister smiled and asked casually, "So, how's life at the motel?" I answered calmly, "Peaceful." My husband leaned back in his chair and spoke quietly. "Ready to admit you made a mistake?" Without saying much, I placed a folder on the table. "Not really," I said. My sister frowned immediately. "What's that?" I replied simply, "An offer." My husband looked confused. "An offer for what?" I met his eyes and said, "For the motel." He burst out laughing. Who on earth would pay real money for that place? I slowly slid the papers across the table, toward them. Within seconds, my sister's smile faded away. My husband froze for a moment, almost forgetting to breathe. He read the number twice. Then he whispered, This can't be real." I answered calmly, "It is. And that's only the first offer." Suddenly, silence covered the table. My sister spoke softly. "That's worth more than all my buildings." I nodded slightly. Yes. Now my husband was looking at me very differently. Not with anger, not with pity, but with pure shock. Finally, he asked, "You knew?" I replied, "My father knew, and he left it to me." Just then, the waiter approached the table and asked, "Is everything okay?" Closed the folder and said with a quiet smile, "Yes, everything is finally okay." 2 months later, I signed the final agreement. I didn't sell all of it. I kept a share in the new development. That money secured my children's future. And that same week, I filed for divorce. This time, he didn't call me useless. He didn't laugh. He simply asked, "Can we talk?" But I had already heard everything I needed to hear that night. He was the one who told me to leave and live in that motel. My sister later tried to act supportive, but something had clearly changed. She no longer called it just a motel. Today, whenever I drive past the construction site, I see massive cranes, steel frames rising into the sky, and more traffic building around the area. The old motel sign is gone, but the land is still mine. My father didn't leave me the smallest asset. He left me the strongest one. And the night my husband told me to go live in that motel, he believed he was throwing me away. What he didn't realize was that he was sending me straight toward my future.